Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Sultan.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
كيف الحال? How are you?
Doing good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, doing good. Feels good to kind of get all the technical stuff out of the way. First online interview doing for the Ridwanullah Show.
Yeah, it's always good because if you don't do it in advance, you might be recording something and then you find out you didn't record at all.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Really excited for more than one reason. But you know, this is obviously the Ridwanullah Show. I should have said welcome to the Ridwanullah Show for a little bit of a proper introduction. You know, just to kind of give the viewers just an idea of what we do here. We focus on helping individuals, specifically Muslims, completely maximize their lives, finances, and business, not only in this dunya, but more importantly in the akhirah, for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In today's show, we have brother Sultan Kisana, mashallah. His main passion and focus is really in the computer science and IT industry, as well as business and so many other things in life. So we're gonna go throughout the whole landscape, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and try to get as much value and use to create some level of insight and breakthrough for us to begin with, as well as all the viewers. How does that sound to you, brother Sultan?
Yeah, inshallah, sounds good.
Okay, inshallah. Do you want to just give yourself a quick introduction, kind of tell them about yourself, kind of where you are in life and situations like that, and what, you know, what the future kind of looks like a little bit as a brief introduction?
Yeah, I guess I'll start from the beginning. I'll just give like a brief from the beginning. So like,
Okay.
I was born in like America, like Utah, so like specifically in Sandy. But after like just a month, my dad took me back, or my mom took me back to Pakistan.
Okay.
And so I would come back and forth. But then when I was little, I mostly grew up in Pakistan, like in the villages, you know. So we had goats, we had cows. So I saw like the village life, you know, and
Yeah.
we used to get some fresh milk, and it was completely different from how it is now. Like electricity used to go in and out so much. So, and then from there, after some time, maybe about 8 or 9 years, like I learned the language, went to school there for a bit, then came here to the United States, and then I did my middle school and then high school here as well. And then during high school is like when I was like really into like trying to get into coding and like making apps, because I knew someone. There was one of my classmates, like when we used to hang out, like his dad used to be working in the IT field.
Yeah.
So we would go to his house, and then we used to like whenever we would hang out or try to hang out, like, well, not every time, but like most of the time, we used to be thinking of ideas of apps and all of this stuff, and then we used to try to work on different apps, and then we ended up like thinking of trying to start like a after school like app club. It was called like Phaser App Club, and then so in high school was like mostly where a lot of the passion for like coding started, and then after high school, so like during high school,
Yeah.
when I finished, I was supposed to go to Utah Valley University to study computer science, and
Okay.
then what happened was my dad had passed away, so in my senior year.
Subhanallah.
And so I was gonna go, but I knew that like because it was so recent, I would probably not focus in classes. I'll probably just do bad, because like, you know, and then at that point I was like kind of like at that stage I was not as practicing, but at that point I was like kind of like,
Practicing coding?
no, not practicing coding, but like practicing like
Yeah.
Islam, you know.
Yeah.
And so at that stage, you know, like I was like I wanted to travel, you know, because
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what life was at that point, you know. And
Yeah.
so I
How
was
many
like,
years ago was this?
so this was not, I guess not too long ago. So 3 years ago is when I graduated. So
Mm.
after I graduated high school, I was like, I'll work, save up. So I saved up like over 11,000, and then I was like,
MashaAllah.
I'll travel. So then I traveled for a bit, and then I kind of just like, I was trying to figure out what life was, you know? And
Yeah.
so that's when I really started practicing, you know? Because like
Yeah.
I saw the reality. And also like the other thing was like, I kind of saw like the reality of this life as well, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that like my dad was like very wealthy initially because like he was an engineer. And so,
MashaAllah.
but he had a like Parkinson's, so and he got into an accident, so he had some like operations he had to do.
Yeah.
And so because he had to do many operations, like he had like you could say he was like close to being a millionaire, or he was a millionaire. So and then but most of the money he had to go for surgeries, and like maybe even spend
Oh,
100K cash
subhanallah.
to pay for a surgery or something, you know, because some if you're because he did surgeries outside of the United States as well, you know, so it was
Yeah.
not just here. So when you travel abroad, they charge you with cash. It's not that the system works within. And
Yeah.
so I saw like both aspects for the most part, you know, where you see the rich life and then you see the
Yeah.
poor life.
Yeah.
And so for me, I kind of knew what the reality for the most part for this life was. And like I realized when I was traveling, you know, like just saw many things, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I came back after kind of just going, seeing what life was about and trying to figure it out, you know, that's when I came back to Utah, you know, after
Yeah.
traveling. Then I was like, okay, I was supposed to go to do programming at Utah University. So then I went to University of Utah to make sure I really wanted to do this as my career. So I took like it's pretty popular nowadays, the coding bootcamp. So
Yeah.
the one I took was over 10,000. So it was pretty
Ten thousand
expensive.
dollars for the boot camp.
Yeah, yeah, for the bootcamp. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
But one of the main reasons I wanted to go was because I saw that 4 years is a long time. So I was like, if I'm committed to something, I
Yeah.
want to be able to know if I really want to do it. So
Okay.
I took that boot camp kind of just to see if I was gonna be it's something that I really like,
Yeah.
or it's just something I did with my friends. You know, that's why I liked it. So I went there and then I studied like programming. We were going over JavaScript, like a bunch of stuff, you
Yeah.
know. And then also the other reason was like with this boot camp you can actually become a software engineer, and I know people like I have friends that also like didn't finish their bachelor's yet, they're trying to finish it now. Like
Yeah.
one of them is it's his last year, and he's going to get his bachelor's in computer science. But he did a boot camp and then he got a software engineering job, so
Mm.
now he's making close to 100K before he even finished his bachelor's.
Yeah.
So
MashaAllah.
my plan initially was just to get that boot camp. I'll find out if I really like it, and then if I get the certification, I'll go apply for software engineering positions, and then just finish my schooling that way.
Yeah.
And then so I went to the boot camp, and then so I was working at the same time as I was studying, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so the one thing I will say about these boot camps, the reason they call them a boot camp, you know, it's
Yeah.
they got the name from the military, you
Yeah.
know.
Because of how intensive it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very intensive. So like the
Like, what are you
workload was
talking when you say intensive? How, like, what does that entail? What makes it intense?
so it's a number of things. So first of all, you have projects, okay? So you're working on so many different projects because in order
And
to
just to make, sorry to cut you off a little bit, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly as well as our audience. So you've already completed that boot camp, right?
no, that's what I'm gonna get to. Like so I did so the boot camp, so there's three different ones. So or two. So you can do 3 months, which is
Okay.
like the really intensive one. That one you work full time. And then the one I was doing was part time. And so I did about 3 or 4 months. I was about to finish, right?
Yeah.
And so the way I was planning to pay for it was like I was working at the same time as I
Yeah.
was going to the boot camp. And so because it was like 10,000, like we had sold a property back home, you know. So I was
Yeah.
gonna once we got the money, I was gonna pay the rest. And so I was attending the classes and I was about to finish so close, you know.
Yeah.
And then what happened is I did like a payment arrangement because I told them I'm waiting for the money to come. And so I spoke to the advisor and stuff, and I found out that because like you can send money from the United States, but it's harder to get the money, especially that large of an amount, to the United States from a different country because of money laundering. And
Ah.
I didn't know all the details on that, you know. And
Yeah.
so because of that, I didn't get to finish the like the payments on it.
Yeah.
And so and the thing is the money I paid, I paid quite a bit of it too as well. So I paid like close to 4,000 already.
Yeah.
And then the thing was, so the advisor told me like, because I had to take a test to get into that boot camp initially. So the advisor was like, so once you want to come back, just let me know and I'll get you in right away. But then after that, after the boot camp is like, I was kind of studying on my own as well. I
Yeah.
was working as well, like just like normal jobs, you know. And then so with the kind of getting into like IT stuff, you know, there's two paths now. You know, you can either just do a bachelor's, you know, which is the traditional. Nowadays they're accepting like the path where you're self-taught or you go with certifications, you know.
Yeah.
So even now I'm studying right now, so I'm still, I guess, not, I'm still studying like one aspect and still trying to get one of the certifications.
Yeah.
But with the coding bootcamp, it's just quite a bit. You have to really prepare like financially before you go into it.
Yeah.
And so once with the coding bootcamp I finished that, then I started kind of looking more into like, I guess, other options as far as still getting into IT.
Yeah.
So so I studied on my own a bit, and so now at the moment I'm studying like networking. So
Yeah.
I'm taking some courses, like taking a course for that. And so I have a I'm about to finish the course this month actually, and then I need to take a test pretty soon, like maybe next month or maybe
Mm.
the month after. And so with that I can kind of like put that on my resume and then make it easy for me to apply. So at the moment I think I have good amount of experience, because like, in the sense that like some companies don't even really require certifications. If you
Yeah.
have projects to back it up that you can actually do the job,
Yeah.
they'll kind of like get you in. So right now I'm in the process of applying for IT jobs, because I've kind of like worked through some projects. I kind of know like kind of the overview of how things kind of work.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, now I'm at the stage where I can start applying. And then because once I can get in to just like any IT job, then it just makes it easy, because once you have experience on your resume,
Yeah.
applying to other IT jobs is kind of pretty convenient. You could just move over.
Mm.
So at the moment, that's where I'm at. I'm kind of like studying networking, and kind of like learning a bit more about networking. Before I studied like programming and like kind of like developing websites, maybe making apps, that kind of side. So now I'm trying to do like a overview of like kind of how networks work, how routers work, like how we process data, like kind of going
Yeah.
into detail, I guess, with that kind of stuff now. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Alhamdulillah. So it's an amazing thing right now, because I just want to take a quick pause right now and kind of dig back a little bit into what you've already mentioned and what we've already talked about. So there's a couple of interesting thoughts that I've had as you were speaking. Um, First of all, I didn't know your father passed away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him,
Yeah.
and grant him Jannat al-Firdaus bi-idhnillah. But that kind of made me realize, it kind of a little bit connected the dots for me, where, we obviously, being somewhat of a, practicing Muslims, and also, driven and entrepreneurial, it kind of made me think, do you have to go through some level of pain, to whatever varying degree, to be that hungry and driven? Or could you be driven and, hungry and driven without that level of a pain in your life? What are your thoughts on that?
I think you can. It just depends on your like goals in life, I think. If the
Mm.
goal is something that's like something so valuable for you to achieve, that'll be a motivation, you know.
Yeah.
Even for me right now, like all the stuff I'm doing at the moment, like even the side projects or the side companies or whatever I'm trying to build,
Yeah.
it's honestly for me to make it to Jannah, you know, because like
Mm.
it kind of all aligns. So like I've had to work like normal jobs, and I realized that like the downsides of it. So for example, like when I wanted to pray, you know, I have to tell them, okay, I have to pray at this time, and some employers might be like, okay, why should we hire this guy? You know,
Yeah.
we can just get someone else that doesn't have to pray, and we can just tell them what to do. I even went
Yeah.
to a job where they're like, you can't have a beard
Ah,
before even in the interview. So there's a lot of things. There's
subhanallah.
benefits, you know, of you
Yeah.
having. Also, one thing I want to emphasize is like people like really should try to specialize in something, because if you're just like, you can do a normal job where everybody can learn it in a month, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for them to fire you, you know,
Mm.
and because they can just get someone else right away. But if you specialize in something, then
Yeah.
it's not going to be as easy, because they're going to be like, how are we going to find someone that really specializes in these minute details, you know? And
Yeah.
so if you specialize in something, that's really beneficial. But like the question, I guess, the answer to your question is like, if it's something that's like really valuable, I think even if you don't go through that pain, you should be able to.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's just I think the pain helps a lot more because I feel like a lot of the people that I've seen who are hungry and driven, there's some level of a pain behind that drive, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah. I think, yeah, I think I've noticed that trend as well. So I can agree.
okay. So what was how did your how long ago did your father pass away?
So I think it's been, because it was my senior year and I graduated 3 years ago. So I think
So
it's been three
roughly
or four
about
years.
3 years ago, 3 4.
3 or 4, yeah, about yeah.
How did that impact your life? Like what kind of impact did that have on your life?
I think it was more so like it kind of just woke me up, like what this life is about. Because in high school, you know, you're just like hanging out with friends. You're just trying to kind of just do homework, go out to eat. It's just
Yeah.
you don't really think about like the deeper questions. And so when
Like
that
what?
happened, sorry, go ahead.
Like what?
I guess like deeper question in the sense like why we're here, you know, like why. So for example, like some people go to high school and they probably don't even know that they're going to high school, because you need to go to college to get a job. You know, there's steps, you know, there's a reason why you're going to high school. For some people, they're just going to high school because they meet their friends, you know, they don't
Mm,
really know what's going on. So
right.
it kind of just woke me up. Like it made me realize like the main purpose is like, what, because you're gonna die anyway. Like I could die today, I could die tomorrow, you know, even if you have wealth. Like the example I was giving you, like my father, you know, he
Yeah.
had quite a bit of wealth. Like I think he had like very like many houses, you know.
Yeah.
And so even with him, you know, like he didn't take those houses with him or the cars, whatever, you know.
Subhanallah. Yeah.
And so it just kind of woke me up, and it made me realize, like for example, in this life, you know, people want to work towards maybe getting a nice car, like maybe like a Range Rover, a G-Wagon, Lamborghini, you know, these nice things. It's not bad to get them, but you want to get that, or get a like a really nice house, maybe get a mansion. Or some people just
Yeah.
want to have an average house where it's 5 bedrooms. So it just made me realize like these temporary things we're willing to work that hard for, right? And
Yeah.
that's temporary, which doesn't go in the grave. But once you die, after that, that's eternal, right? So I thought to
Subhanallah.
myself,
Yeah.
do I want to work hard for something that's going to last forever, or do
Mm,
I want to work hard for something that's, I can get it, it might be enjoyable for a bit, and then it's just you just go in the grave. It's kind of like food. You work really hard to make food, you know, let's
mm,
say it's your favorite dessert, and then
yeah.
you eat it, and like what, after 5 seconds you don't remember the taste, it's just gone.
Right. Right.
So that's the way I saw it.
Subhanallah. So man, because for me, I obviously, you know, this the show is a little bit selfish for me personally, because I really want to dig into the individuals who I'm interviewing and learn specific things that I could benefit from personally, because I personally think that's the only way that other individuals would be able to benefit on top of whatever message that you wanted to share. So I just wanted to, you know, dig a little bit deeper into like the balance of the dunya and the akhirah, right? Or the akhirah and the dunya, however you want to phrase it, because I think that was an interesting part that I continuously struggle with, because I try to make sure that, you know, my akhirah is set up properly,
Mhm.
but also, you know, I want to be able to achieve the things that I want to achieve in this life. So how are you going about finding that balance? And is it something that you're struggling with, or is this something that comes a little bit easy to you?
I think for me it's not that much of a struggle. So like I said earlier, so my main goal, you know, is to please Allah, and you know, like we want to get to Jannah. So I
So,
kind of aligned my goals with that, because for example, I want to start a company, let's say, that might sell for $100 million, right?
mm,
Or I want to go into a business, you know, where I can have passive income. right? So
Right.
for me, I'm doing those things because, like I told you with the example, I went to a job. They told me I can't have a beer, you know. And
Right.
then so when I go to some workplaces, there's a possibility where they might be like, you have to pray 5 times a day. We might as well hire someone that doesn't have to pray. So, and then also, like, I saw that I can help a lot more people. Let's say, because like, let's say I have a business that's doing really well, I can help
Yeah.
other Muslims open their businesses. And then also, like, I have other goals as far as, like, so if I get that amount of money, because like I want to be able to sponsor like students of knowledge, inshallah. So like, because the more knowledge there is within communities,
Yeah.
those communities, they'll be benefiting a lot,
Yeah.
so it's just like I kind of aligned my goals in that way. So it's kind of, that's, I think, one of the better ways for me. It's like balanced, so you're still working for the dunya,
Right.
like working hard for the dunya to get the things, but it's aligned with your akhirah. It's kind of combined,
Right.
so obviously, like if I make 100 million, I can still buy a nice car and get a nice house, but along with that, my main intention was to be able to worship without any obstacles in the way,
Right.
worship Allah. Like, so that's what I would say.
Yeah, so that's very interesting, like the alignment aspect of it. That's what I've been trying to do for a little while myself, but sometimes you just kind of lose focus of that alignment. And I don't know if it's because of outside noise. So how did you come across the concept of aligning? Is it you, let's say your akhirah with your dunya? Is that something that you recently learned, or is that something that you've kind of always knew? Or how did that come about?
I don't think I always knew it, but
Yeah.
I think it developed because, like, so for me, the way like my mind works is like this. So for example, let's say I want to do something, right? Let's say, like, at the moment I'm trying to start a software company, right?
Yeah.
So what I try to do is this: I have some steps that I try to take before I go into something, right? So one of the things I might do is I might ask people, right, who
Mm,
already tried to do that, and then see what their process was before I go into it. And then also I might look at the details that, like, as far as, like, okay, if I do this one thing, what obstacles might come along with it, right? So even if it comes to like small things, like, I might try to do that. And then also the other thing is, like, I want to see the steps, I can take small steps daily to get to that main goal. So, for example, like, if you want to build like a software company, there's certain things you have to do. If you need to be able to code it yourself, or you need to hire people that are going to make the app for you, or the website, or whatever application.
yeah.
So with that, so the way I thought about, like, my overall what I'm trying to do, which is to get to Jannah, so I saw what steps I need to take, and so steps like, like the good deeds I need to do. So for example, I need to be able to pray salah 5 times a day, and so
Mm,
if one of my jobs, because we have to eat, so we have to go work. So if one of the people doesn't let me pray,
yeah.
how can I align that and then have those steps, and then you can even speak with people that have businesses that are practicing, and then, which is what you're doing, which is very good. So you can
Mm,
see how they're kind of aligning it. And
right.
then also, like, you can maybe just, that's what I would say. I just kind of looked at the main goal and then saw what people were kind of doing, and
Yeah.
then kind of like what steps I needed to do that were realistic. And so that's kind of how I was able to get somewhat of a balance. But we can't be perfect. But if you're trying, it's better than not trying at all.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, what are the business ideas that you currently have, and what are the bit? So, are you working more on getting a job within a company, or more of the business? Which one are you more focused on right now?
I think it's, at the moment, it's more of the job at the moment, but I'm still doing like the business on the side. So at least the way I see it is like the business aspect, of like starting a company and like all of that stuff. I think if you have a good idea and you put even small amount of effort daily or weekly,
Yeah.
and you keep putting towards it, because the thing is, business, doesn't come overnight or in a week,
Yeah.
so if you have that kind of mindset where you're just giving whatever you can, and then you just give your effort, and it's something, if you like it, like if you think the idea is actually beneficial, right? So, and you keep working on it, and then eventually it might have spikes, it might have downs, so it won't affect you mentally, because if you're so focused on that, if there's always downs, you might not be able to continue. If
Mm.
there's a big spike and then like 2 months down the line there's a down, you know.
Yeah.
So for the business, that's the kind of way I would see it. And then as far as the job aspect of it, like for the most part, you can, I think, maintain a job, and once your business succeeds, you can just focus on that full time. So you could probably work full time, have spend like small amount of time on your business, and then once your business makes small, like starts making some money, you could start doing part time. Once
Yeah.
you do part time, your business goes to full time, and then you keep doing the business. And then if your business is really good, you quit the part time, and then you continue full time, and you're stable.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of like what I'm doing at the moment, I guess.
So I think the concept that you're explaining very well is called the Tarzan approach, where some people advise you to burn the boats, which I kind of did a little bit. But I think the smartest thing is to kind of have the Tarzan approach, where you know you have your job or your corporate ladder gig going on, and your business as a side hustle, and kind of making that transition. Because
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is a question that I was recently asked: is like, you know, should I focus more on the business, or should I focus more on you know, finding a coding job? And this was specifically about either computer science or tech IT as well. So how would you advise someone? I guess you've kind of answered it, but just a little bit, digging a little bit deeper into it. When somebody is feeling stuck between, you know, climbing up the corporate ladder versus starting their own business, and there's, you know, in the initial stages, how would you give them a little bit more advice on that, in trying to get over feeling or being stuck?
I would try to focus on one thing at a time, you know.
Mm,
So like for example, like if you have like a job and you're trying to do a business, maybe like if your job is pretty secure, like you know you don't have to really do too much, you know, like there's not much thinking required, and there's not too much like physical labor or time involved with the job,
yeah,
then you can give a bit more time to the business. But if you know your job is gonna not be, if you might get fired because you're focusing so much on the business, then
yeah,
you should focus on the job. And once you get to a good level where you'll know inside in your side yourself, you know, you'll be like, okay, it's pretty much the same thing every day. I'm pretty used to this now. And so now you can start kind of going a bit more time on the business side of things, and then
yeah,
that's, I guess, how I would balance it. Because if you don't do what you're, if you just focus on your business and then it doesn't succeed, now you don't have your job either, and so now you're done with both things.
yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a fine balance. So that's a really good advice. Um, um, so talking about like the career, how did you come across, you know, focusing on computer science and IT? Is that something that you chose consciously, or is that something that kind of chose you? How did that come about?
Yeah, so like I had like kind of like initially, like I was saying earlier, is like in high school is when I really found out about it, because a friend of like, so I knew like a friend in high school
Yeah.
that his father used to do like programming as a job. And
Okay.
so when we used to hang out or go to his house, like we used to try to make apps, or like we used to go to made we tried to make like a app club after school,
Yeah.
and then we would discuss like random ideas we would have for apps we wanted to make. And
Okay.
so that was like, I guess, like the fun aspect. And then that's when I told you, like when I came back from traveling,
Yeah.
that's why I went to the University of Utah, so to make sure that I really wanted to go into it. So that's when I did like the practical aspects of like coding, what it's actually like.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I really got into it, to be honest.
I see. Um, what about, you said your friend's father?
Yeah, yeah.
What about that intrigued you compared to like, I mean, you've had to have some level of exposure to other people's careers. Like what about the programming intrigued you most?
I think it's just like there's multiple things for. So one thing is that like you can kind of like create a lot of cool stuff with it, to be honest. So it's
Uh,
like the cool factor, like you could make really cool apps and all that stuff, right? So when you're
yeah,
young, you know, when you see something cool, like you get interested. And then the
right.
other aspect is that you could actually make a lot of money with it. So
Yeah,
even people that don't do businesses and they're just
yeah,
doing software engineering,
yeah,
there's a possibility where they can become millionaires. So it's
right.
it's it's pretty realistic to do that. And
Yeah,
also the other thing is like let's say hypothetically, you go and become a software engineer, right?
Yeah.
And you work really hard for 4 years. You could literally work for 5 or 4 years, save up all of that money, and then you have, if you get paid 200K a year and you saved up most of it, you might be left with 700K or 600K. Now
Right.
you can do what you like. You can even
Yeah.
start a small business and then you just live life. So it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be a permanent thing, because like some people like coding, as a hobby, but when you go to the work environment, it's not the same as if you're doing it on your own. There's
Yeah.
deadlines, people are on top of you, they're saying there's this thing that needs to be done, there's
Yeah.
this issue, and then sometimes you might be working on projects that you don't really like. And so if you don't really like the corporate environment, just work there for a bit until you have that financial freedom to do what you like. And so that's kind of the way I saw it.
I see. Okay. And what got you so I'm just gonna like life, finances, and business. I'll just kind of interchange and kind of shift between all of them. What got you to be practicing Muslim? Like, what was the trigger point, or what was the catalyst, I should say, or what was the difference?
I think so. Like at one point, I was like looking at what other people were worshiping, and like
Mm,
for me, like when I learned about Allah, like the names of Allah, and so I just realized, I saw some people are worshiping cows, some people are worshiping Jesus, peace be upon him. I like in my head, like I couldn't physically like bring myself to worship any of those,
yeah.
and like it would actually make me sad, in my heart.
Yeah.
And but when I
Subhanallah.
thought about worshiping Allah, I felt happy, like I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, this is like like the shahada, in my
Yeah.
head, it came to my mind. I was like, yeah, there's like none worthy of worship except Allah.
Subhanallah. Yeah.
And so, and then also I realized that, like, once I realized, that was like one of the main things I realized, and then I realized that this message, who brought it, it's Rasulullah sallallahu,
Sallallahu
so
alaihi
then the
wasallam.
shahada comes, it's like ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna muhammadar rasulullah,
Yeah.
so I knew that Rasulullah sallallahu is the messenger of Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu brought this message to us.
Yeah.
So it just like made so much sense. And like also, if you there's an example I can give, like, so for atheists, like
Yeah.
this is a good example, at least for me. So you
Mm,
imagine an iPhone, right? Imagine it's in the middle of a desert, right?
yeah.
and and some people are walking by it and they see it on the floor, okay, and it's the newest iPhone. It has
Yeah.
the new features, Face ID, it has like the 4K camera, let's say, and then whatever other features it has, and then they
Yeah.
see it on the floor. The first thing, or some of the first things, is going to be like, someone either put it there purposely or they dropped it, right? They're not going to think, oh, it just appeared out of thin air, right?
Right.
So if you look at that example, what's more complicated? The oceans, the moon, the earth, Mars, our eyes,
Subhanallah.
our brain, our heart. What's more complicated? All of those things, the bird, even ants. So if that's the first thing that comes to your mind when it comes to an iPhone,
Yeah.
what about all these complicated things that are way more complicated than that? So would you not think someone put these things here, And so like that's kind of the example I can give.
Subhanallah. So that kind of got you thinking a little bit deeper and start practicing your Deen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was other aspects. Like one of the trigger points, I guess you could say, was like my dad passing away, and then like
Mm.
it just kind of, death is one of the things, like, is
Yeah, it'll
pretty
definitely
obvious,
give you a good reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to the graves and see it's there. You can see people, they're laying there.
Yeah.
So
Subhanallah. So were you starting to practice before your father passed away, or was that more of
I
like
guess like I guess like before he passed away, I would try, but I didn't really understand what like really Islam was. I
yeah.
don't even know if I knew. I don't even know if I really knew about Rasulullah Sallallahu in high school.
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So at that, after he passed away, my dad. So after that is when I really wanted to figure out, because in high school it was just kind of like you go with friends, you go do homework, you just like play games. It's just like the regular routine.
Yeah.
And so, and then I also thought about, like, in the sense, like, for example, I was like thinking of the average lifespan, at least in the United States. It's like people, they grow up as kids, and then
Yeah.
they go to elementary school, they go to high school, and then they'll graduate, get married, get a degree, start working, have kids. Then kids will grow up, and then the kids will get married and move away, the person will retire, and then they might die at that stage or just get a bit older and die. I was like, that's what life is, at least
Yeah,
here. So
yeah,
I was like, is that really what people are really looking forward to?
yeah. Subhanallah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you actually look at the consequences of, the situation, um, before in helping you make the decision. I think that's some of the things that got me to start changing my life for the better, as well as I was kind of like, okay, where is this road heading to? Or
Yeah, exactly.
what
Yeah.
is the destination of this? And that kind of made me think, I don't want to get to that destination. So that's kind of interesting to me that, the same ways that you're explaining how you were able to shift your life or any aspects of your life was to see the consequences in that. And that's kind of getting me to think, like, what are the consequences can I look into to be able to make, some very valuable decisions in my life.
Yeah, it's I think it's something that really kind of helped me. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's a lot more that can a lot more that can go into, like, also in high school I was like really into cars,
Yeah.
even my friends,
Hmm.
so I was looking at those things too, because like that's one of the things people really work hard for, to get a
Yeah.
nice car.
Yeah.
And so I was
Because it
like,
attracts the chicks, right?
all yeah, I guess that, but
The
also like for
unconscious
me,
way of looking at it.
yeah, you could say that. But for me, it was like more so because like my brother was into cars and my friends were into cars. Like I guess like just like I guess they're fast, they look nice, And
Yeah.
so, but then I realized, if you have a car, let's say you buy a Lamborghini and
Yeah.
then you're driving, and then someone hits you, you wreck it. It's done. All that hard work is done.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes. So if that's what your motivation is, what I was like, I don't know if that's the best thing to have, like
Yeah.
to be really motivated towards.
Before I ask you before I ask you about your motivations, what are you being motivated by and driven by right now? We dive a little bit deeper into that, what's the most important lesson you've learned in your Deen so far?
I think it's just honestly like I guess like for me, when I found out like in Jannah we get to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Subhanallah. Yeah.
So I was like, I can't miss out on that opportunity, I was like,
Mm.
no matter what happens, I can't miss out on that.
Subhanallah.
And so I was like, I really have to get to Jannah, And
Yeah.
so that's kind of like the main motivation, like for me, because like
Yeah.
almost everything I do at the moment, even if it's like my schoolwork or my businesses that I'm trying to work on, like
Yeah.
studying, all of that stuff, like whenever I get like think to myself, okay, this homework assignment is too hard, or this
Yeah.
project is too hard,
Yeah.
I think to myself like the main goal I'm trying to get to, right, which is Jannah,
Right.
And so because with the examples I gave earlier, like if I am not able to have a good career or have a like a financially be stable, then I'm like there might be situations where I might be put in where I don't have money, and then like I'm forced to not I can't pray on time, or if it comes down that which I can't do,
Right.
So that's like really one of the main motivation factors for me, to be honest.
Mm. Okay. So in terms of like the important lesson that you've learned in your Deen is not to miss out on meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like if you think about it, if you like really deeply think about it, like I don't know. For me, I just can't miss out on that opportunity.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. And so I guess you kind of already mentioned about the motivation. Let's take a different angle on it. Like when you're starting to feel down, I think you've already answered that already. How do you remotivate yourself? Like let's focus on that for a little bit.
Yeah, I just look at my main objective, like what I'm trying to do in life,
Yeah.
and I kind of like have an idea of the direction I'm trying to head into. It's not like a detailed idea,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a general direction. Like, okay, at this stage in my life, I might do this. I might do this.
Yeah.
So I have kind of a general direction I stay in, and then I have a main goal that I'm trying to head to. So
Right.
that's I just look at like I mean when you're down, like if you just think about like at least for me, I just think about in Jannah, all of
Yeah.
this pain is gonna go away, you
Right.
know. So I'll struggle here for now, but that's fine because if I can get the highest level I can possibly in Jannah, and
Yeah.
that's forever, that's fine with me. So
Mm.
that's the way I see it.
Alhamdulillah. I'm a little bit hesitant to ask this question, but I will ask it anyway. Just so that it's a very good, at the very least, rhetorical question. How is your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How would you describe that?
I mean, I think for me, I try to work on it like a lot, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
for example, I try to work on my manners a lot, to be honest,
Mm.
cause like I think, like even now, Allah is watching us,
Yeah.
so
Subhanallah.
I try to just like be really careful with what I do, cause like I, I guess like I just like I just try to like really try my best, but we can't be perfect.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like even like if people are watching, I would just say like just think, even if you're about to do something bad, like how can you do something bad knowing Allah's watching you? You know what I mean? So even like if you're about to like I don't know, like steal something or do something bad, like
Yeah.
if you just think in that moment, Allah's watching you, you're gonna get
Mm.
scared, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess like for me, it's like I try to work on that a lot, my manners, and just like I try to implement like I thought of like I started like writing a list of like the good deeds like
Yeah.
that I want to try to do, like start implementing, because there's a lot of rewards you can get, so like, and
Yeah.
especially me, I'm trying to build my Jannah, so like
Right.
if you say Subhanallah, you get a tree in Jannah, and then
Subhanallah.
there's other things that have rewards attached to it,
Yeah.
and so I guess like I just try to work on like doing the best I can, and
Yeah.
then just have good manners, and then I guess like I'll find out on the day of judgment, and
Yeah.
I guess
May Allah make it a great one. I was just kind of pondering that question, so it was kind of good to kind of reflect through your answers, mashallah. So the switching gears just a little bit on health and fitness. And a lot of us struggle with the different weight challenges where probably had some extra weight to begin with. I'm not saying that it doesn't seem like you're struggling with it, but I'm
I
asking
think
this.
I think early on I think I was I
Yeah.
was not as much, but I think I was. Now I'm a bit more skinny, but I
Yeah.
think the health aspect I'm trying to work on a lot, to be honest,
Yeah.
uh, because like I realized that like I've seen people, they can't make sujood, so
Subhanallah. Yeah.
because I saw this, like I met this one guy, and like he's really old,
Mm.
and so when he goes into sujood, it's very hard for him, but he said he makes dua that he continues to be able to make sujood. So
Subhanallah. Yeah.
so I was like
Just some
like
of the
at
blessings that we take for granted.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself, like in my young years, like if I don't work on my health in my later years, like if I get diabetes or any other issues and it prevents me from being able to do good deeds, then I'll be really sad, because I'll be like, it
Yeah.
was so easy for me to avoid this. I could have prevented this so easily. So
Right.
that's kind of like what I try to do, but it's hard, to be honest. It's one of the harder things for me at least.
Uh, what
So
like what how are you overcoming your challenges, and what are they?
I guess it's just like I sometimes eat too much sugar, to be honest. And so like for me, I
Yeah.
wanna, cause like I wanna recite Quran, So
Mm.
like I don't wanna have like my teeth go bad and my makharij goes bad, like if my tajweed goes bad. So I
Subhanallah.
and so like if I eat too much chocolate, then I think, I'm gonna get cavities, and then my teeth will go out, and then like so that's what I guess
Mm.
try to be careful with now.
How would you advise someone who's trying to maintain a healthy weight? Like what are the things that somebody can do to get to a healthy weight and maintain it?
I think for the weight, it comes down to the diet. So like if someone's really trying to lose weight,
Yeah.
if they can manage to like control their diet
Yeah.
and just like exercise on the side, even if it's like once a week, because like consistency is the best thing to do. Because some people burn themselves out,
Yeah.
like they might go to the gym a lot, for a month, and then the
Yeah.
next month they're like, okay, I can't do it
Completely out
anymore.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if they can't go to the gym because of work, then at least they can focus on their diet, because that's something you just have to avoid. It's not something you have to do, it's something you avoid.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Food is a big thing. So
Yeah. Very true. Um, so there's a lot more questions that I have in terms of like the career aspect of things, but I'll just kind of go a little bit down the line. You said some, how important is family when you look at the grand scheme of your life? Like how are you reflecting on, the value of family in your life?
oh, I think it's a lot, because I thought about it like this, I was like, if I don't have anyone, like in my family, like, then let's say, for example, there comes a time, even these small like details, like for example, let's say there's a month where you just lost your job, and
Yeah.
then your rent's about to come. So who are you gonna rely on? Your close family,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then if you got ill, right? If let's say your leg broke, you fell, who's gonna come help you? You know,
Family.
who's gonna, yeah, so you have to go back to your family. So if you don't have family, like even small things, if they affect you, they could not just be small things, they could become major things.
Yeah.
Even something small as breaking your arm, you know. So
Yeah.
I guess like it's something I realized, you really have to have good relationship with your family, because they rely on you and you rely on them. Because friends, like, they're good to rely on, but it's not the same as family, because friends, like, they have their own lives, you can
Yeah.
go to them, but sometimes they might just say, no, I can't help you, I have my own stuff going on. But with family, most of the time they'll be like, it's okay, you can, even if they're struggling, they'll be like, no, no, it's okay, you can come. So
Uh,
that's the way I would put it.
yeah. I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it, because especially, being young, it's good to have that perspective, because some of us lose that. um and I know we feel like, we're kind of all over the place, but there's a method to the madness, because we started off initially talking a lot about, the career path, and whether it's an actual career or a calling, which is a big difference, or whether you want to turn that into a business, or the financial freedom aspect of it. I feel like the complete picture ties into that, no matter how much of a good career that you have, if you're losing your family along the way,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
you don't have that good relationship, or you've gotten the financial freedom and the business and the career, but you lost your family in that process, how can you process that? You know what I mean? I always think
Yeah,
about that. Is that something that kind of comes on your mind?
yeah, I've thought about it, because like there's like some like people that might have like wealthy parents, like doctors,
Yeah.
and so what happens is their kids get neglected, and
Right.
so like let's say both of the parents are doctors, they're
Yeah.
constantly rotating shifts, and then the kid at home, he has like a nice house, he gets all the toys, but he has no one to visit, like there's no father or mother to teaching him,
Right.
so he's just like learning from his friends, he's learning from online, because he
Yeah.
doesn't have anyone to teach him.
Right.
So in those situations, like if you're really focused on your career,
Yeah.
then you're gonna lose out on the bigger picture.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting concept, man, but that's the reason why I'm kind of, diving into these different pockets, and trying to make sure, because I think it was one of the MSA conferences where one of the speakers, they said content is critical, but connections is crucial. It's
Yeah.
it's important to understand these different contents that we're talking about, but unless we start to connect them, it kind of goes into the same things that you were saying, where yeah, you are making your money and getting your career, but your children are being raised by somebody else, type of thing. So it's an interesting concept to really think about.
Yeah, it's I feel like, yeah, I mean, because then if the kid starts like going in a bad direction where he starts doing drugs and like doing all that stuff,
Yeah.
then they're gonna really regret it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's something you really gotta figure out. At
Yeah.
least for me, I think
Absolutely.
I think if you have a main goal, like I think it comes down to that. Because if you have a main goal you're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
then like without even thinking too much, I think you'll start doing things in a way where it's everything's kind of trying to align with that main goal. Because if you don't have
Right.
a main goal, you might be doing this thing here, doing that thing there, going to school here for a month and then quitting, then going to this job and quitting, because you don't have a specific direction. So
Right.
same thing like with the career path. So like let's say if you're becoming an engineer, like an electrical engineer,
Yeah.
you have a career path set for you. You're gonna align
Right.
most of your things, even your friends. You might get friends that are in that field you can learn
Yeah.
from. You know, so if you're kind of everywhere, you're gonna have a bunch of everything, and you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to that. And then I guess another thing I was gonna say is like consistency. That's like something I struggled with in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so at the moment, there's like something I'm doing that's kind of helping. So I looked at my like goals, I want to accomplish like in the coming years or like once I die, right? And so I was like, how can I become consistent, with all of these things? Because
Yeah.
one month I might do a lot of work, but next month I didn't do anything. So
Yeah.
the way I'm kind of doing it now is like I'm trying to do, let's say for example, my goal is to learn Arabic, right? So
Yeah.
I can understand the Quran, I can like speak Arabic, So let's say that's my goal, right? So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do is that even if I spend like 5 minutes or even 1 minute learning Arabic, as long as I check that off for the day, right? I can go over. I can spend like 1 hour or 2 hours, but as long as the minimum is done, which is 1 minute or even 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I check it off and I do it every single day.
Yeah.
Then I'm good, because some days I might go over the time limit, and which is beneficial. Because what happened before was like I was like I'll have a set schedule, right? I'll be like, okay, I'll do this thing at this time and this thing at this time. And what would happen is something would happen and my schedule will get messed up, because
Yeah.
something like, let's say at 2 p.m. I'm supposed to go do this thing, but now like my mom's like, oh, you have to go do this thing. Now my schedule's flipped. So
Mm.
so this way it's kind of like flexible. You can just change it around. And so I think that's kind of the one thing that's kind of been helping me.
Yeah, definitely. So consistent. Sorry, my son is kind of crying in the
I
background.
can hear me.
You can hear him?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's okay. You gotta give time.
Yeah. Well, my wife and family is downstairs, so I don't want to interrupt the interview because it's probably something a little simple. I'm thinking, but anyway, in terms of consistency, what was the main lesson you said that helped you in that consistency?
So like I have like a method, I guess, that I'm doing right now. So before it was kind of like I had a schedule, right? I was like,
Yeah.
okay, at this time I'll do this thing, and at this time I'll do this. And I had like a set schedule where it would 3 p.m. I'll go do this.
Right, and
4
then
p.m. I'll do this.
something comes in that kind of shuffles it up.
And it would really mess it up, honestly.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I would lose track of what I needed to do, because there's so many things you have to do in a day,
yeah,
especially if you're trying to do a lot.
yeah,
And so now what I did is like, okay, I have like like an app, like let's just do the reminders app, right?
yeah,
On there, I look at my main goals I want to achieve, right? So
yeah,
let's say if it's Arabic or start a software business or like whatever other goals I have, right?
right,
So then I look at the things I need to do daily to get closer to those goals. So
right,
now on my to-do list, I might put do this thing. Okay, even if it's 1 minute, you just have to do it for 1 minute and check it off. But I can go up to 10 hours if I want. But as long as I do it any between that, I
right,
just check it off for the day.
yeah,
And so the next thing, like learn Arabic, okay, I need to start memorizing vocabulary, right? So I'll put that thing, as long as even if I spend 4 minutes, 3 minutes, as long as I do it for that day, then
yeah,
I check it off. So some days I spend 30 minutes, some days I spend 2 minutes, some days I spend 1 hour, some days I spend 2 hours, some
right,
days it goes back to 1 minute. So
right,
it's consistent though. Whereas
yeah,
before it was like I might do it for one day and then I do it for 4 hours or 3 hours, and then tomorrow I got so busy I didn't do any of it. Then I
right,
forgot. Then
right,
I don't now I'm not even doing it at all. So
yeah.
that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's actually very powerful and interesting to have a vision and then having like the tasks and like you said, even for a minute, that definitely continues the consistency. So that's very powerful.
Yeah, it's kind of helped a lot, because before it was kind of like I was like, this is hard, trying to
Yeah.
stay consistent.
Subhanallah. I know that's what a lot of people keep asking me about too, because with the content creation, they always ask me, how do you stay, some level of a consistent with the stuff that you're posting? But it's just that it's, making sure that I'm doing basic things on a daily basis that helps me produce whatever I'm trying to produce. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think consistency, if you can get that down, you can accomplish a lot, I think.
yeah. And I was talking to a family member who's getting into some level of computer science and IT, and that's exactly what they're struggling with. Kind of circling back to that lesson is that you know, they're not giving that consistent effort, even if it's a little bit or a lot.
Yeah.
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 So that,
It's just like this was one of the aspects I struggled with so much for a long time, you know.
yeah,
And so
subhanallah. That's good that you actually, you know, mentioned that, because that definitely helps me. And I'm pretty sure, you know, whatever consistency that other people need, even, you know, I guess I didn't consider it from that 1 minute aspect. So that's good. Even a minute. Do
yeah, and I would
literally, like, even if it takes you a
yeah,
minute, you just do it?
even if I spend a minute, even if it's like for example for Arabic, right?
Yeah.
Even if I look at 3 words in that 1 minute, I did it for the day, and I go to tomorrow I might do 30 minutes now.
Yeah.
So it's
No, that's
flexible.
powerful.
Yeah.
I was actually reflecting on consistency in terms of like every little bit helps. Like that's one of the things that this week that I was kind of thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would write it down too.
Yeah.
Before, like, so I would have like even if no, like I mean like if you're like your like not your schedule, but like the things you have to do daily. I would write
Yeah.
it down on an app or a piece of paper, but at the end of the day, you have to check it off.
Yeah.
So, like for example, like for me, I try to like okay, so like at nighttime,
Yeah.
I might go over all the things I was supposed to do, and I'll check off all the things I did. And if I
Mhm.
didn't do them, I might do them at that time. So I
Yeah.
kind of keep track because if I don't remember, then
Yeah, the
I'm not
checklist
gonna.
is powerful. I use that myself. That's why I was showing you my weekly planners. All the tasks that I do, I have my black and red marker. This one to write with, and then
Yeah,
this one to kind of like check it off. So that's very powerful. It's reaffirming that belief, because I learned that lesson as well just a little while back.
yeah, and like people make different systems. So like I have a different system for myself. Like I have my phone. Maybe I can show you. I went into detail to be honest. So
Uh,
so this app that I have, it wasn't supposed to do it, so I kind of made it into what it is. So it's quite detailed, but it might be beneficial for whoever's looking. So do you see how it kind of goes?
yeah.
So I
Daily
have
improvement list: today, tomorrow, week, month, year, in the future plans. Is that what it says? To-do
yeah, and then
list?
it says to do list. So the way it works is like I have the things I need to do today, right, in that
Yeah.
section, and
Yeah.
then the tomorrow section, and then the week. So the stuff for the week, and it moves around. I can move it around. Like for example, I have it like this, right? So Saturday, Sunday. So if I put something in Saturday, I can move it to today. So
Oh,
so it's like it shifts around. So like for the week, I
yeah.
know what I need to do for the month. So everything is kind of like going back to the
Which
today
app is
section.
that?
It's just the reminders app, but I set it up like that.
Oh, on the iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. Okay.
so
That's
yeah,
pretty
it's
cool.
I don't think it's supposed to be set up like that, but
Hey,
but it
I,
works.
I like the customization aspect of it. I do the exact same thing with the business task app that I have. So that's actually quite neat, mashallah.
Yeah, it's been helping quite a bit. So if someone
Yeah.
wants to try that, I guess they can do that.
So just a few more questions in the family aspect, and then we'll get into the and world aspect, like community service and foundational work a little bit. And
Yeah.
then we'll kind of come back into the finances and work, and then start wrapping up, inshallah. So are you married?
Not at the moment. Like for me, before I get married,
Yeah,
like I really wanted to work on like a couple of things. Like I really wanted to be, I guess like I really wanted to work on my manners, before I get married.
yeah,
And then also I wanted to work on like I guess like dealing with conflict, really learn about that because marriage, if I have a conflict and like in
yeah,
the ends, so I wanted to make sure that I have
yeah,
some sort of like advice on that and I write it down. And if it comes into that situation, I know what at least somewhat of an idea what to do. And then
yeah,
like I guess the financial aspect of it, like I don't have to be a millionaire, but I'm trying to just make sure that I have a reasonable amount because like I realized that for me, I can't compromise on my salah. I can't compromise on my religion. And
yeah,
so if I'm married and I'm in a financial difficulty and my wife is there and she's like telling me, you have to do this, I don't want to fall into a sin where I'm just getting money.
yeah,
So I was like, I really want to make sure at least have some sort of skill if
yeah.
I can fall back onto, if I really need to. So these things don't have to be there, but I'm just trying to work on some of those things before I get married.
Yeah, that's actually very wise, mashallah. The conflict resolution one is very, very important.
Yeah,
Like
like Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying. So like I was saying earlier, like I try to ask people, you know, like before I try to do a goal, like go for a goal, you
Yeah.
know, like I try to get advice because those people already did it, you know.
Yeah.
So if they already know the whole process, I might as well get. It's like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
So
Get the shortcuts.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So I guess I was kind of wanting to do like a PSA, but we'll skip that for now. But I mean, and yet, like, when are you hoping to get married? Is that just the idea of a couple of
I
years, or is this based on certain goals, or?
I think it's kind of like at the moment it's based on like I was considering maybe I might do like next year or the year after.
Mm.
So, but it can change. But I think that's what I was kind
So
of
roughly 2 to 3 years.
yeah.
I was just trying to have an idea because sometimes, when some people want to finish their goals and maybe when they're 30 or 40 is when they want to get married. So
No,
just
no,
trying to get
no,
an idea.
no. I mean, for me, I'm trying to be on the careful side. You know, if I'm
Yeah.
going to school, and then yeah, I don't want to fall into So
Yeah. No, alhamdulillah. I'm trying to make sure that your DM stays busy. No, I'm just messing around. But so community service, what are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like that's one of the aspects of life that really enriches someone's life, but we're too busy to focus on, at least towards the later years for the most part.
yeah, I think like the community aspect is like community service, just like helping in the community, like giving food to people in the community that need it and clothes. Is that what you mean? And like
Yeah,
helping whoever's like elderly, giving them like shop for them, stuff like that.
right.
Yeah, I think with that, it's like pretty important because like you have to think if you were in that situation, would you not want help from people? You know,
Mm,
for
yeah,
example, like if your car breaks down in the middle of the night, let's say you're on a road trip, you know,
yeah,
and then everyone's driving by, no one's stopping to help you. You're literally just stuck in the cold, right?
yeah,
And so the way I think of those things is like if I'm in that situation, you know, I want someone to help me too. So like why so like I'm being like it's kind of like it's someone like, you know, saying something and not really meaning it, you know?
yeah,
So like they want help but they're not willing to help. So that's kind of like one of the ways I see it.
yeah. Alhamdulillah. Any particular ideas that either now or in the future that you hope to do or would like to do in terms of community service and
Yeah, I
foundation
think
work?
I mean like one of the main things I want to do inshallah is like I want to try to like start maybe like an organization
Mm,
for I guess it's just like different things I guess like I want to really maybe I want to really sponsor like students of knowledge to be honest
oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
because
Yeah,
like if you think about it
that's
like
definitely community service for sure.
because the more let's say there's a community right let's
Yeah,
say and there's no one of knowledge there that you can go back to and ask questions you know you know like I don't that's kind of like hard you know so
yeah,
but imagine there's in each community like however many communities you know there is someone that they can go back to and like that's a student of knowledge because when you have knowledge you know then the community is going to be built on something that's like strong
yeah,
but if it's just like everyone's doing their own thing there's going to be conflicts you know
yeah, yeah,
this person says this thing is right this person says this thing is right and they don't have evidences both of them you know
yeah.
so that's one thing that I was thinking quite a bit.
Yeah, that's actually very powerful because I was thinking as you were speaking, like what I'm passionate about. I was thinking, those people who had injustice done to them. That's what I feel like more connection to. But when you're coming from that higher perspective of helping people with knowledge, that's even more powerful because now they have that knowledge behind, whatever they're trying to achieve in life.
Yeah, because if
So
people have knowledge like they're not even gonna so like it's like you know how there's preventative measures you know
yeah, yeah,
so this is a preventative measure before even the things takes place so if someone knows like if you do this what the punishment for that is you know in the hereafter they're not
yeah.
gonna do it most likely you know
So,
so
so
so that's I mean even the aspect I mean there's you can do community service in the aspect that you mentioned so it's good to do it in all aspects because
right, right.
so
Whatever someone's passionate about,
yeah
like you said about, the sponsoring students of knowledge. That's very powerful. And it's like we're all making this whole pie. Everybody can have, you know, can contribute
Exactly. Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
their slice is of flavor, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's really amazing. It's just that for me, whenever I've done, you know, the life assessments, either for myself or with others, that's a key ingredient that's actually missing along with the Deen, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's they're not contributing enough. So to circle back to computer science and IT career and business topic just a little bit, and then I'll ask just a couple other questions, and then we should be good to go, inshallah. So for I think what I don't know if we dove into it. I think you mentioned it. For somebody who's interested in IT, computer science or IT, first of all, how does someone know that it's for them? And before you dive in, I just want to mention, like, for me, I was really interested in, you know, not really more the computer science because I wasn't into programming, but I didn't know. So I was kind of researching. But then I found out that I'm more into like utilizing it. So how does someone know if they are into, they should go forward into like computer science and IT in the, you know, the nuts and bolts of it, or in the utilization of it? How would you advise someone who's kind of confused between the two?
Yeah, so for that, I would say like, so IT is like pretty broad. Even like programming has sub branches, you know?
Right.
So for example, there's like, you can go into software engineering, you could become a data engineer, you could become like a cybersecurity in that field, you could go into like cloud computing, you could go into
SAS.
like the IT side of like network engineering. So these are like, this goes under IT, you know?
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff. So, and some of these things might not require programming, some of these might require small amounts, some of these might be only programming.
Yeah.
And so the way I would look at it is, first of all, like I would research like how easy it is to get into that field and if you're willing to put in that work, and then also what the day-to-day like aspects of that job is, and then how much the pay is, because that's pretty important. Like even though people might say, oh, I want to do it for just the fun of it, you know,
Yeah.
I think money is something you really got to take into consideration as well. Because if you put in like so much work, why would you not want to get paid
Yeah.
good, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Especially when other people are already in that field.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. And then even with these fields I mentioned, these are like the main general ones, you know. So even with these, they have sub branches. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean by specializing. So because like you could be good at like almost all of them, but there's sub branches you can get specialized in, right? Whether that's getting certifications, whether really having projects to back that up. So there's two ways I guess you can get into IT. So there could be more, but there's a traditional way where you go get your bachelor's and then you get a degree and then you get a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Or you can be self-taught, and I know people that have software engineering jobs that are
Yeah.
self-taught and they're making good money, okay?
Yeah.
And then you can also get like certification. So you can initially, what if you're like really interested in IT, what you could
Hmm.
do is like start just looking at all the fields, and you can go on YouTube and there's YouTube videos that say day in the life of a data engineer, day in the life of a network engineer, and
Yeah.
they kind of like pick the good ones because some of them just might show you like the good stuff, you know. You want to see the actual details of the job, you know.
Yeah.
So once you see that and you think that's something that you can manage, then
Yeah.
start going into it. And then when you start learning it, maybe if you can find some friends in your neighborhood that are in that kind of field, or even like you can go to the university and make friends there.
Yeah.
Whatever you can do in the community, there's most likely so many people in IT. So once
Yeah.
you can have someone you can refer back to, that's one of the better ways to study. And then when you pick the field you want, then start learning it online. You can do that relatively easily now. So you could use YouTube, it's free for the most part, and then you can use Udemy, which one it's like paid, but it's like $8. They have sales, or $12. The sales go on pretty often.
Yeah.
And once you start learning, one of the best ways to learn is have projects you're working on at the same time. So you're learning and you're implementing. Whereas what I realized in school, what they do is they teach you a lot of concepts, you know,
Yeah.
they
And
teach
you're
you
not
so
really
many concepts.
practicing it.
Yeah, I learned like so like one thing is like you got to really have projects, even if it's not as many in school. If you, and the thing is you could have an idea for an app and that could be a project. And if it goes successful, now you just made money and
Yeah.
you learn from it. So
Yeah.
I would have like as many projects, learn what you learned, and see how it fits into the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, just keep going from there. And then I kind of encourage getting a bachelor's, to be honest, even if like you get an IT job, right? Because I think it's just gives you that job security. Because like even though you can get jobs with certifications and experience,
Yeah.
I've noticed that it's like a shortcut to get jobs. It
Yeah.
really is. Like if you actually try to go apply for these jobs, and it's just a shortcut. But if you have certifications and experience, and you know people in the company, you can still get a job. But if you spend just like 4 years, like this is the way I thought about it, right? So like you have like average lifespan is what 60, 70 years or so, right?
Yeah.
So why would you want to struggle for like 10, 20 years working a normal job, right? Where you're barely, I know I saw people where like they were getting paid very little
Yeah.
over time, and they probably still couldn't manage to like take care of their family as good as, they're probably still stressing about bills, right? And they're working more than 40 hours a week. So why would you want to struggle for that many years like that? You might as well struggle for 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
and just really focus. And then after that, it's still gonna be hard, but not as hard as like working 80 hours a week, working
Yeah.
overtime, and then barely making money. And so that's the way I kind of side. But certifications and like self-taught is becoming more popular now.
Yeah.
So I encourage that as well, because like if you're older and you have a family, it might not be as easy to go get a bachelor's, right? So then what you can do is you can start looking into the certifications that have value, because there's certifications that don't have value. You just take them and people are like, what is this? Where did you get it
Yeah.
from? You know?
Yeah.
And so just look at the ones that have value. And the other thing I would say is like, for me, what I do is, let's say I want to go apply for a job, right? If it's a software engineering job, I look at the requirements they have and the preferences. So I might start preparing 5 months in advance and try to get all of the requirements they want me to have and start learning up on those topics.
Yeah.
So by the time I apply for that job, they're like, this guy has everything we want. Why
Right.
don't we just hire him? So
Yeah.
that's what I try to look for. Just go on Indeed, look for the job you want. They give you an outline for what they want you to study. Why would you want to like spend so much time just researching here, researching there? They kind of
Yeah.
gave you what they like. So
Yeah, I mean, so that's actually something that a lot of people debate. So if I'm understanding correctly, if you can go for getting the 4-year bachelor's degree, you should go for that.
it depends. Not all fields, it's not worth it. So every field, it can change. So becoming a doctor, you need to get a degree, right? So
Yeah.
depending on the field, it's gonna make it easy for you to get into that field. So for example, with software engineering or all of these other jobs, right? You can
Yeah.
get a job without having a certification, or like without having a certification and being self-taught, because I know people that have done it. But if you know the work that they put in, you'll be like, okay, yeah, it took a lot, So
Yeah.
and then the application process, because when you submit applications to a lot of companies, right?
Yeah.
They look at what's the first thing, like the hiring manager
Yeah.
might just be looking for people like, oh, this guy's a bachelor's, okay, let's consider him. This guy's a bachelor's, let's consider him.
Yeah.
So it might be like that. But if you have connections within the company, then I would say then you might have an equal chance, or possibly more actually. So uh I guess I agree with you, like as far as the bachelor's, where it's not for every single field,
Yeah.
but the
No,
specific
so
one.
specifically for computer science and IT.
Yeah, for that one, you don't need it, but it's gonna make it easy for you to get a job. But like I said,
So
I
what
know.
would so let's say someone is asking you, which route should I take? What would you advise them? Should I go for the 4-year bachelor's degree, or should I, go through connections like you mentioned, or do some of these boot camps
If
and
you so
get the criteria? Because those are the three main ways, generally speaking, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're a person who doesn't have a family and have
Yeah.
no kids, and you're in your 20s, 23,
Yeah.
then I would say you can go down the path of getting a certification, right? And getting a job part-time in IT. You could either get a software engineering job,
Yeah.
or you could go directly to getting a 4 years degree, okay? So because you don't have that many responsibilities, then you might
Right.
as well go directly to get your bachelor's. If you have a family, if you have kids and you have responsibilities,
Yeah.
Then I recommend you start learning on your own and start applying for jobs. You might get hired before you even get certification, right?
Right.
So
And you can get the certifications along the way.
yeah, exactly. And some of those companies pay for your certification, so you
Right.
can
Which
be
is like the
self-taught.
double win-win situation.
Yeah, exactly. And some of these companies pay for your school, so that's what I was gonna get to as well. So you
Yeah.
could, so if you're a person who has kids and a family, and even if you're a person who doesn't have kids, but you don't have enough money to go to school, you have
Right.
family you're supporting back home,
Right.
whatever the case may be, then start learning on your own and
Yeah.
start applying. Have projects on the side.
Yeah.
Projects are what they're gonna be kind of like certifications because they show people what you can do. So then start applying for jobs, and if you don't get jobs, then start getting certifications and start putting on that on those on your resume. And for the most part, you probably should be able to start getting jobs. And then from there, you can go get a bachelor's or just stay with the company because work experience and getting a bachelor's, once you have work experience, some companies might think of it as the same nowadays. So
Right.
so you can go down that route. But when I said earlier about the bachelor's,
Yeah.
making it easy for you to get a job, I still think it's true because for some reason, at least from what I've seen, they I think they still prefer because it's like
Yeah. The commitment
uh,
factor.
not necessarily the commitment factor. I think like when you grow up with something, you're just used to it, right?
Right.
Change is difficult sometimes. So with these companies, they're so used to getting people that only have bachelors. For some hiring managers,
It's
they might
just
not trust
hard.
a person.
Yeah.
They might not trust a person who's self-taught.
Right.
Some
Right.
companies are more kind of
Or
like
sometimes they don't even feel like they're deserving.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. But some companies I kind of like people that are self-taught because they see the commitment, the
Yeah.
dedication.
Yeah.
Because a person could go to get a bachelor's, but once he graduates, he doesn't know what he's doing because he's just doing it for the grades. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So there's like, I guess, downsides and upsides to it.
Yeah, for sure. So, um, so the thing that I'm struggling with is I have more of some technical skills, but more of like soft skills for me personally, because that's one of the things that kind of shifted me away from like the computer science and IT field is
Yeah.
because I guess I imagined it to be like you're just sitting on a computer all day writing code, right? Generally
Depending,
speaking.
it depends. Depending on the field you're in,
Yeah,
like I said, there's data engineering, all that other stuff.
yeah,
So some of them, you could be just sitting on a computer,
yeah,
but you can work from home for a lot of those positions. So it's still pretty nice. But some of those positions, like for example, I think like the product manager position,
yeah,
for that one, it's kind of like, from what I understood, is like you're the one that's kind of like working with the software engineers and like the other departments and getting the product. It's just like for that one, I don't think you need coding. So that's one of the positions in IT where I've noticed you don't really need. I think having soft skills in that one kind of helps.
yeah. And I think it's just a matter of like knowing yourself because even right now, because there's like the primary career and calling, whether you go through a company or you build your own company or business, whatever it may be. I feel like I have this little bit of a void where I'm so multi-passionate, I don't know what to label myself as the primary thing because the thing that I'm most passionate about is the media and education, right?
Yeah.
But the media and education, it requires some level of results, right? So it's like you have to have uh, a particular main field and then the secondary field or maybe even a third one that you could add on to. So how did someone go about finding their main career and what is that for you?
I guess like finding the main career is like you have to think to yourself, can I do this every single day? You know, if you can't do it every single day, then it's not the main career. You know,
Yeah,
and so that's you'll kind of get a feel for it by looking at people that have those fields, and kind of asking them, what are you doing in your job? Like what did you do today? Stuff like that.
yeah,
And so if you think you can manage it and you can do it every day, then you can consider it as your main field. But if it's something you have a hesitation where you're like, I don't know, there's like a doubt, you're like, it seems like I might not fit in, you know.
Yeah.
Then it might be like a secondary field where you can do it, but it's not something you can enjoy, you know.
Right.
So like at least for me, the way I thought of it is like even if I don't like that field, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can switch over, you know, to different fields. And
Yeah.
even if that's the case, I can even work for 4 years and save up because some of these positions pay 200K and some of these pay 350K, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I just manage to live a simple life, work for 4 or 5 years, just save most of that money, you
Yeah.
know, then I can honestly just like open my own business. And if I really want, I can even go back home, you know, where the housing is so cheap because I'm used to living in the village, you know.
Yeah.
So I just retire, you know, just live life. So
Yeah.
and then so that's the way I kind of thought about it. But I think you kind of have to be able to manage it day to day because otherwise your life might become stressful because when you go to work, you're just like you don't want to be there, you know, and
Yeah.
that can affect other aspects of your life too. Because when you come home, like let's say your wife or your kids, you were in a bad mood at work because it's like it's so difficult. Then you come home, they can notice it too. Now
Yeah.
it's affecting other aspects of your life. So
Right.
in that case, it's not worth it, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, there's like tons of more questions, but maybe we could save it for a different time. Because it seems I don't. It's been at least an hour, right? Yeah, definitely
It
been at
doesn't
least an
show
hour.
me how long it's been
Yeah,
actually.
same. That's what I was kind of looking for. Because usually the other ones it shows me the timing. But
I
how are
think
you
we should.
on time?
Yeah, let me check. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on time.
Okay,
Yeah.
because there's obviously we can dive a little bit deeper onto other things. Because I'm a little bit tempted to um, you know talk about because I wanted to get into finances as well, right? Because it seems like you have some interesting thoughts on finances that I want to kind of unpack a little bit. But I think that along with finances or before finances, just well, I guess yeah. So you really have to know your finances first, and then get into like the career and calling aspect of your world, right? Because I found it interesting that you mentioned it's something that you have to enjoy doing on a day to day. So does it really have to be something that you enjoy doing day to day, or could it be something that you hate but you make reasonable amount of money doing it?
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, that's the like I don't know if like that's the first one of the like the things I said before because I was saying that even if I don't like this career, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because some of these you can make $350,000. Like, and these numbers I'm giving you, they're not like far off numbers. These are like actual numbers people make.
in the computer
So
science and IT.
yeah, yeah, in that field. So
Okay.
and so if I can, so imagine you're making, let's just 350K is like if you're like really good, you know, you can get really good promotion stuff like that. But let's say
Yeah,
200K, you know,
yeah,
make 200K for 5 years, 4 years. And so for 4 years or 5 years, you just work through it, and most likely you're gonna get even more promotions because you get bonuses. So and those 5 years, you just live a simple life, right? And then you manage to save that money,
yeah,
most of it. So by the end, right, you have a bunch of money saved up. Now you can start a business. You can like do pretty much a lot with it. You know,
yeah,
you might even make it into the 100,000, $800,000. You know, and so like that's one thing I've considered as well. So like I think that's a good option for some people if they don't like the field and they can get through it,
yeah,
then do it. But the thing is, one thing you got to take into consideration for that one is how is it like how much benefit is it gonna bring? Because if you're in a bad mood when you come home every single day, like
yeah.
we said earlier about your family life, right?
Right.
Now you messed up your family life, and even when you
Yeah.
pray, you know, when you're praying or you're like are you really focused on your salah or you're constantly stressed about your work? Like how like what's does the benefit outweigh the harm? Like
Yeah.
is what you have to really consider.
I see. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I feel like we could literally talk about this forever because there's so many different questions about it. But just to kind of save a little bit of time, because there are a couple of questions that I want to make sure that I ask before we end this episode. What are your thoughts on finances? Like, what are some of the interesting things that you found about finances, and what are some of the financial goals that you're working towards at the moment?
Yeah, I think like saving up is like not too bad, to be honest. Like I've done it before where I've saved like good amount of money. But I think one thing you have to do before you save up is like, so every month you have to think of all the things that you're like, what's the bills you have, right? So let's say you have your rent, you have your electric bill, gas bill, and
Yeah.
then you have like all those other bills. You might have like some like subscriptions. Some people have like, I don't know, YouTube subscription, whatever, all the other expenses, food.
Yeah.
What I would do is calculate all this, the like the money that you're spending at the end of the month, right? And then look at how much you're making, and then from that, look at what you can like deduct and reduce from the how much you're spending, and
Yeah.
the things that you don't need for now. Later on you can get them, but for now, since you're trying to really save, that you can kind of sacrifice, you know.
Yeah.
And so then once you have a figure, then at each month, kind of like make sure to put that aside, you know, keep doing that. Consistency is one of the main things, even with this. Most
Yeah.
things, if you're consistent, I think you'll do well. And so, and I would have systems put in place, to be honest. So
Yeah.
people have different ways of the way they do things. So like even for example, like most of the stuff I've said throughout this podcast, like there, like I guess not most, but like there's systems that I've said, you know, that work for me, but some people have a slight difference, but it works better for them, right?
Yeah.
But the concept is the same, because the concept is to have systems put in place that help you stay consistent and be able to do what you actually want to do, because this is a goal, right? You're saving up. And
Right.
so for me, the way I thought about saving up is like kind of like just looking at the expenses, and then also seeing how you can keep increasing the money you have, like the like income, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and that comes like investing, you know. So if you can take a small portion and you think you can get more money out by investing that portion that you saved, then you go do
Yeah.
that, you know. And
Yeah.
so even like with on my phone, I kind of like set something up for budgeting as well. So
Mm.
like I have like, so I'll kind of show you this as well. It's kind of interesting.
Is it a part of like just the reminders or a specific app?
It's just the reminders.
Mm.
So I kind of set it up like this. So it's pretty simple actually. So do you see it on here?
Yeah. Payments to make, total spent, total money, savings.
Yeah, and then so if I go here, I have like the list of all the things.
Yeah.
So like I kind of just try to keep it organized, you know, like the stuff I'm spending, how I can reduce it, the money. So it's like just put systems in place is what I would say. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the way I did it. Just think of like, I don't know, what works for you, try different things. And if you have systems and consistency, I think you'll start seeing results pretty quickly, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think the general aspect of it is the same, but then all the details you
Yeah,
kind of
it
have to
doesn't have to be the same.
personalize
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The concept is same
What's
thing.
the thing that helped you the most to save the most amount of money?
I think it was kind of, I think it's consistency. That was the main thing.
Yeah.
Literally the main thing that helped me, because
Just
like
consistently save.
no, like for example, even if I say $1 at the end of the month, it's
Yeah.
consistent. As long as I do that, and next month I do $20, or next month I do 1,000, but I'm
Yeah.
consistent. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like, okay, 3 months I save 200, but then it gets spent. As long as I'm saving as much as ever I can, you know, and it's consistent, I think that's the better way to go.
I see. What's
Because
the
it's
big,
flexible. It's very flexible, you know.
yeah.
So
In terms of what's flexible?
like as far as like the method of saying, you know, even if you save one
Oh,
dollar
yeah. Yeah.
and then next month you save 200, next month you save $3,
Right.
it's flexible in the sense where it's not a set limit. Like for example,
Right.
it's like initially what I tried to do was this. I was like, I'll save like, maybe I was thinking I'll save like, let's say 500 for example every month,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
what would happen is like sometimes like some payments would come in and they would take that. Now I can't save that. And then
Right. Yeah.
next
And
month
that's
you
the
might be,
challenge.
yeah.
Yeah.
So next month you might become demotivated, and then you
Yeah.
spend it because you're like, I couldn't even save last month. So with this, you, even if I manage to save $1, right?
Yeah.
Next
Yeah.
month I save 20. The consistency is there, and it's just like a habit at that point. You know, you're just
Yeah.
you're just saving up without even thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I found was having a consistent income will allow you to, generally manage your money, with the stuff that you're spending and giving, to be able to save at least sufficient amount consistently. And that's the part that where the consistency comes into play, because
Yeah,
most of us have these fluctuating realities, but if you could
yeah,
have
yeah,
like a
exactly.
base, that'll be very, very important.
Yeah, because if you don't save, like if you don't reach your goals, you get demotivated, and you're like, I don't know if I should. You just spend it then.
Yeah. What's the thing that so far in your life that you're most proud of achieving so far?
Mm, I guess like for me, I would honestly just say like being like just praying salah consisting like 5 times.
Yeah,
I think that's like the main thing
yeah,
for me. Because like the other achievements, like uh, they're important, but this one is like really important because like at least when you first start practicing, it's like
yeah,
very important. So like being able to like pray Fajr like on time, pray Isha, every
yeah.
single salah. No, not even like delaying it, at
Right,
all. Where you go back
absolutely.
past the time. So being able to start praying consistently, that's like amazing.
Yeah, definitely. That's very, very interesting that you mentioned that, mashallah. What's the thing that you still wish to have achieved so far in your life that you haven't yet?
For me, I think it's like memorizing Quran.
Mm,
So because like there's there's a lot of reward to memorizing Quran, and it's like when you like listen to the Quran or memorize it, it's like amazing.
yeah,
So that's one thing. Like inshallah, I'm still working on it, but I'm still in the beginning stages. Like because I'm trying to like I started memorizing, but like I had to fix my tajweed. Because
yeah,
with this, like I was memorizing, but I was making so many mistakes. I was like, what do I need to do? So
yeah.
then I had to go back. It's like the issue is that my tajweed is not good. So every time I recite, I have to keep going back and repeating the verse I was memorizing or the surah I was memorizing. And so now that's the stage I'm at.
Alhamdulillah. That's,
Yeah.
that's interesting. The thing that you're most proud of is the Deen, and the thing that you still want to achieve is still the Deen. So that's very unique, mashallah. What are the most important lessons you've learned from your father?
I think it's like hard work to be honest because it was accomplished quite a bit actually. And so like just just seeing that like if you especially because he came from Pakistan to here,
Yeah,
so he got his degree in the United States. So like I guess just seeing that like even if you don't have that much, you can still make a lot. So
yeah,
I guess you just see the dedication and the hard work is probably the main thing.
mashallah. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's it makes me rethink about the importance of hard work, because sadly I was just recently starting to learn about hard work and like enjoying it, so it was important to hear that and connecting it to actually achieving
Yeah, yeah.
all of that aspects of life. So um is there anything else that before we start to like fully wrap up, anything else that you wanted to share with me, the audience, or anybody else that we probably didn't cover?
Uh, I guess like the main thing I would say is like I would uh, I would just like have like your main goal, like if like whoever's watching, like
Yeah,
just maybe sit down, just think what are you actually trying to do with your life,
yeah,
and so because some people are just living life, and
yeah,
this thing happens, it makes them go this direction, this thing happens, so like they're very stressed out because of that because there's no real direction, and when you don't have direction, like for example when you're in the desert and you're lost, there's no direction, you're going to be stressed.
right,
But if you're in the desert and you know how to get out, you're not gonna be as stressed. So there's a
right,
direction, So it's two people in the same place, same time. What's the difference? One person knows the direction, one person doesn't. So and so that's what I would say. Just find your main, like at least for all of us, inshallah, is to get to Jannah, So
right.
at least
At
I
the
would,
very least,
yeah, yeah,
well, actually the highest,
yeah.
depending on how you're looking at it.
yeah, so there's other goals that you want to
Yeah.
accomplish,
Yeah.
but like I would look at the main goal and then also the sub goals you have. And what I would say is like once you know your goals, okay, now you have to think, okay, how can I accomplish these goals? What can I do daily to reach that goal, right?
Right.
So now at that point, you know what you need to do. And it's pretty obvious for the most part. When you think of a goal, you already know what the steps you kind of need to take.
Yeah.
So then at that point, you just have a daily consistent schedule. Like I said, even if you do that thing for 1 minute or 5 minutes or 20 minutes or 10 hours, you do it, right?
Yeah.
You check it off at the end of the day. As long as you're consistent, that's the main thing. And so you keep doing that. By the time, because it's gonna build up so much over time, and you might not even realize how much time you put into it. Now you've already accomplished your goal, and you came so far, and it was simple as just thinking of your goals and then coming back to the steps and then just having a consistency with it every single day.
Yeah.
Now you have your goal. So I guess like that's probably one of the main things. And then
Yeah.
I would also say like I guess the main thing is like we have to really like think about like our relationship with Allah, so because if you think about it, all of these things that we're doing, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has everything in control. So,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that like we're really trying to please Allah. So whenever like when you're struggling, you make dua to Allah, like just try to really work on like building your Jannah, trying to have good manners, like
Yeah.
doing the good deeds, like I would say seeking knowledge is so important, So
Mm.
I would really recommend for whoever is watching, like even for me, I'm not at the stage where I want to be, but inshallah, I'm still trying to seek knowledge, like whether that's like like the main things, like at least. So right now at the moment, like one thing I'm doing right is
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of going over all of the main aspects, like the sunnah aspects, like of life, right? Because I want to implement as much sunnah, in my life, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn all of those main things, all the things I need to avoid, all the things that are recommended for me to do. So now I have a direction for my life and how I should live it.
Right.
So
Right.
it gives me like really clear instructions to learn it that way. And so that's one of the main things I'm focusing on as well.
MashaAllah. Yeah, I mean, those are like very, very powerful reminders, because sometimes you lose the destination that you want to go to in the direction, and that really ties into your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really appreciate you mentioning that. Is there anything else that you could possibly think about, or is that pretty much it that you wanted, that you felt, I mean, obviously for this moment, but that you wanted to impart on people, including myself?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think that's it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think just I guess the other thing I was gonna say is like for me, one thing I try to do as well is like I try to write down the bad qualities in myself, right? And then I try to see how I can work on them. For example, someone might have a quality
Yeah.
where they're waking up late and they want to
Yeah.
wake up early. They're eating this thing, they want to get rid of that. I try to go through literally as many things that I can go through where
Mm.
I'm like I really gotta improve this quality of myself,
Yeah.
And like for example, whether that's like thinking before speaking, or whether that's having good manners when I go outside, whether that's like just like whatever I can, I try to write down as much as I can of my qualities that I really gotta work on.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing I guess I would say.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. So let's say this is towards the three nasiha, right? The top three nasiha. This is kind
Yeah,
of based on, I don't know if you watched the School of Greatness podcast by Lewis Howes.
I haven't watched it, but seems interesting.
Yeah, it's
I would,
I liked it so much. He says the three truths, but I like nasihas better because it's just
yeah,
advice. And he basically, the question goes, let's say this is pretty much the last day on earth, right, for you, or many years from now, whatever it may be, your last day on earth, and you only had to leave three nasiha, three advice for people to like really utilize to transform either their lives, finances, and or business, or whatever it may be.
yeah.
What would be your top three nasiha that you would leave with us, bi'idhnillah?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the first three I gave. Like the first one, the main important one is like your relationship with Allah,
Yeah.
and like praying salah, like learn how to pray properly, learn how to give zakat, like learn your, like, seek knowledge, and do things based on knowledge,
Yeah.
and so that's the main, like, and have like Jannah be your, like, trying to get to Jannah and please Allah is the main goal,
Yeah.
so do that most importantly, and then the other things is like consistency, right? So even with doing good deeds, like, you know about being consistent, it's very good.
Yeah.
So like I gave the advice of, like, just think of your goals, and then just every single day, even if you spend 1 minute,
Yeah.
do that and check it off at the end of the day. Or even if you want to make a mental note, you can just make a mental note, I just did this, right? But you do it every single day. And then I guess the other thing is, like, just look at your bad qualities or the things you want to improve on, write
Yeah.
them down if you want, or if you want to remember them, and then just, like, see what steps you can take to remove those qualities of yourself. And
Yeah.
then inshallah, with those things, I think you could improve quite a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. And just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, the first one was improve your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah,
The second one was be consistent.
yeah.
And then the third one was
The
so I'm
third one
blank.
is, like, just like the qualities or the things that you're
Oh,
doing
write down your
every
bad
day.
qualities, yeah, and
Yeah,
improve upon them.
and then the second one, I guess I would also say, like, consistency and have systems put in place. And
Yeah,
they don't have to be my systems, they can be your own systems that you think of.
right. And
And
whatever works best for you and makes sense
exactly,
to
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Jazakallah khair. How can people get in contact with you if they want to contact you either personally or professionally?
Yeah, I have a email, like, I guess a business email. It's just
Okay.
called sultankisana.business@gmail.com. Or they can contact me, I guess, sultankisana.personal@gmail.com, if they want to reach out. Yeah, those two things.
Okay, perfect. Before I ask you the last question, just want to say I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It seems like there's always something to take from our conversation every time we speak, either personally or on the Ridwanullah Show. The thing that I appreciate most about you is you freely giving advice, and not just general advice, but advice that are useful. So I think that's one of the things that I appreciate most about you, because most people don't even give advice, number one, or they don't give useful advice. So that one was very, very helpful, alhamdulillah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for that. With it being so early in your career and life, I'm really, really excited to see, the trajectory of where you're headed and what kind of results that you're going to be producing and the lessons that you're going to be learning. So I just want to say, your future looks bright, and I hope to hopefully be a part of that journey, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah, jazakallah khair for having me. Yeah, I've learned a lot from you as well. I'm
Yeah,
still a beginner, to be honest.
yeah.
Uh, so, but yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. Definitely is a pleasure of mine. So the last question is, obviously this is the Ridwanullah Show, and kind of trying to build the Ridwanullah Organization. So everything is really focused on and based on the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the last question I like to leave with is, what does Ridwanullah mean to you?
Like, for me, that's the most important thing, like, that's, like, all my life is based around that, like pleasing Allah. So I guess that's what I would say. It's just like, for everyone, that's what their main focus should be. Because if that's not your main focus, then you lost you got lost in the direction of things, to be honest. So that's what I would say.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Really, really appreciate your time. Hopefully we can do this sometime in the future as well, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khair. I would like to just close out by saying Jazakumullahu khair, Ridwanullah family, for tuning into a new episode of the Ridwanullah Show. I'm your host, Life, Finances, and Business Maximizer, Hussein Mohamud, checking out by saying, never ever give up on completely maximizing your life, finances, and business in this dunya and in the akhirah for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.